"You cannot have children, Mr. Harrison." The doctor's words hit me like a freight train. I sat there in that sterile office, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, staring at him, certain I'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" Dr. Richardson, a urologist I'd been referred to, looked at me with a mixture of professional detachment and genuine sympathy. He was maybe 60. Gray hair, wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of doctor who'd probably delivered this kind of news before. "Mr. Harrison, the test results are conclusive. You have a condition called azoospermia. There are no sperm in your semen. None at all. My name is Michael Harrison. I'm 40 years old, a partner at Morrison & Associates, one of the top law firms in Manhattan. I specialize in corporate mergers and acquisitions. I bill $800 an hour. I've never lost a major case. I'm also a father, or at least I thought I was. 5-year-old Emma, 4-year-old Sophie, and my wife Rachel was 8 months pregnant with our third child. A boy this time, according to the ultrasound. We lived in a beautiful 3-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side, walking distance to Central Park. The girls went to an elite private school. We had a summer house in the Hamptons. On paper, my life was perfect. Except now, sitting in this doctor's office, I was learning that none of it was real. I shook my head, trying to process what he was saying. That's impossible. I have 2 kids already. My wife is pregnant right now. 8 months. Dr. Richardson set down his chart and looked at me directly. "I understand this is difficult to hear, Mr. Harrison, but azoospermia can be congenital, meaning you were born with it. Based on your test results and the physical examination, I believe you've had this condition your entire life." "My entire life?" I repeated numbly. "Yes, you've never been able to father children. I'm sorry." The room seemed to tilt. I gripped the armrests of my chair. "There must be some mistake. Can we do the test again?" "We can. But I should tell you this test is extremely accurate. We examined multiple samples under microscope. Not a single sperm was present in any of them. Additionally, your hormone levels and testicular ultrasound confirmed the diagnosis." I stood up. I don't remember leaving his office or walking to the parking garage. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in my BMW, hands shaking so badly I couldn't put the key in the ignition. At home, my pregnant wife Rachel was probably listening to classical music. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, her favorite, rubbing her swollen belly, preparing for our third child. Emma was at the Dalton School, learning to read and write in cursive. Sophie was at daycare, probably covered in finger paint and glitter, the way she always was. I would have died for those children, without a second thought. I loved them more than my own life. I'd stayed up all night when Emma had colic. I'd taught Sophie to say Dada before Mama, much to Rachel's mock annoyance. I'd already started a college fund for the baby boy who'd be born next month. But if what the doctor said was true, then I wasn't their father. And if I wasn't their father, then who was? My mind started racing. Rachel and I had been together for 6 years, married for 5. We'd met at Morrison & Associates. She was a paralegal in the corporate department when I was a senior associate. Smart, beautiful, ambitious. She had long, dark hair and green eyes that seemed to see right through you. Our courtship had been fast. 3 months of dating, then I proposed. She'd said yes immediately. We were married 4 months later, in a small ceremony at the Plaza Hotel. Looking back now, she'd seemed eager. Almost too eager. But I'd chalked it up to love, to chemistry, to fate. She'd been 3 months pregnant at the wedding, though we didn't know it yet. Or rather, I didn't know it yet. Emma was born 8 months after our wedding. Premature, we'd said, but she'd been perfectly healthy. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, full head of dark hair. I'd been there for the birth. I'd cut the umbilical cord. I'd held her minutes after she was born, this tiny, perfect creature, and thought, I'm a father now. But was I? I sat in that car for 2 hours, unable to move, unable to think, unable to breathe. Finally, around 4 p.m., my phone rang. Rachel. Hey, where are you? You said you'd be home by 3. I cleared my throat, tried to sound normal, got caught up at the doctor's office. Be home soon. How'd it go? What did he say about the prostate thing? We'll talk when I get home. I hung up before she could ask more questions. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to my office. 25th floor, corner office. View of the Hudson River. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. I searched azospermia congenital. Can azospermia be cured? Men with azospermia and children. The answer was always the same. Men with congenital azospermia cannot father biological children. It's impossible. Which meant Emma wasn't mine. Sophie wasn't mine. And the baby boy Rachel was carrying right now? Not mine either. I thought about confronting Rachel immediately, demanding answers. But something stopped me. I'm a lawyer. I've spent 20 years learning how to think strategically, how to gather evidence, how to build an airtight case. If I confronted Rachel now, emotional and unprepared, she'd have time to create a story, to cover her tracks, to deny everything. No. I needed proof. I needed evidence. I needed to know exactly what had happened before I made any moves. I picked up my phone and Googled Private Investigator, New York City. If you're finding the story compelling, please hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Your support helps us share more important stories like this one. Now, let's continue with what happened next. The first name that came up was Carter Investigations, former NYPD detective, specializing in infidelity cases and background checks. 5-star reviews, discreet and professional. I called the number. Carter Investigations, this is James. I need to hire you. Can we meet tonight? There was a pause. That urgent, huh? Yeah, I can do that. My office, 7 p.m. Midtown, 42nd and Lex. I'll be there. I spent the next 2 hours in my office, staring at family photos. There was one on my desk, all 4 of us at the beach in the Hamptons last summer. Rachel in a sundress, her pregnant belly just starting to show. Emma and Sophie building a sandcastle. Me with my arms around all of them, grinning like an idiot. The happy family. The successful lawyer and his beautiful wife, and their perfect children. All a lie. At 6:30, I locked up my office and took a cab to Midtown. Carter's office was in a nondescript building, 3rd floor, the kind of place you'd walk past 1,000 times without noticing. James Carter answered the door himself. He was maybe 55. Gray hair cut military short, sharp blue eyes that seemed to catalog everything about me in 3 seconds. Former cop for sure. You could see it in the way he moved. Alert and watchful. Mr. Harrison? Yes. Thank you for seeing me on short notice. Come on in. His office was small but neat. Desk, computer, filing cabinets, coffee maker, photos on the wall. Carter in an NYPD uniform, receiving some kind of commendation. Carter with what looked like his family at a wedding. He gestured to a chair. Coffee? No, thank you. He sat across from me, pulled out a notepad. So, tell me what's going on. I told him everything. The doctor's appointment, the diagnosis, the impossible truth that I'd been raising children who couldn't biologically be mine. My suspicions about Rachel. Carter listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. When I finished, he set down his pen. Mr. Harrison, I'm going to be straight with you. What you're describing is going to be painful to investigate. Are you absolutely sure you want to know the truth? Because once you know, you can't unknow it. I'd been asking myself that question all afternoon. Did I really want to know? Wouldn't it be easier to just not know? To keep living the lie? I have to know. I can't live like this, not knowing if anything in my life is real. Carter nodded slowly. Okay. Then here's what we're going to do. I'll need photos of your wife, her daily schedule, access to any old communications you might have, saved, emails, texts, anything. I'll need to know her routines, where she goes, who she sees. She meets someone every Thursday afternoon. Says it's an old colleague from her paralegal days, someone who wants career advice. Every Thursday? Same time? Yes, around 2 p.m. She's gone for about 2 hours. Carter made a note. That's interesting. Very regular schedule. Could be innocent. Could be something else. What about paternity tests? We'll get to that. But first, let's find out if there's someone else in the picture. If there is, we'll identify him, document everything, build a complete timeline. Then you'll have options. This is important. Mr. Harrison, don't change your behavior at home. Act completely normal. If your wife suspects you're investigating, she'll cover her tracks. People who've been lying for years, they're good at it. They'll sense any change in you. I'm a lawyer. I can keep my emotions in check. Good. because this is going to test that ability like nothing you've ever experienced. I hired him on the spot, paid a $10,000 retainer. He promised to start surveillance immediately. When I finally got home that night, it was after 9 p.m. Rachel was in the living room, knitting something small and blue. A blanket for the baby. There you are. I was getting worried. I kissed her on the forehead, forced myself to smile. Sorry. Long day. How are you feeling? Exhausted. This baby is so active. Keeps kicking me in the ribs. She laughed, putting her hand on her belly. I looked at that belly, round and full. A child growing inside. A child who wasn't mine. How long had she been lying to me? From the very beginning? Or had there been a moment when she genuinely loved me, before the lies took over? Where are the girls? Asleep. They waited up for you as long as they could. But it's a school night. I walked down the hallway to their bedroom. Emma and Sophie shared a room. Twin beds with matching pink comforters. Emma was curled up with her stuffed elephant. Sophie was sprawled out, covers kicked off, teddy bear on the floor. I stood in the doorway, watching them sleep. These beautiful little girls who called me daddy, who ran to me when I came home from work, who believed I hung the moon. Were they mine? In any way that mattered, were they mine? I turned off their nightlight and closed the door softly. That night, lying in bed next to Rachel, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, wondering who this stranger beside me really was. The investigation had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. Every morning, I woke up at 6:50 a.m. before my alarm, made coffee, got Emma ready for school, helped Rachel with Sophie, kissed my pregnant wife goodbye, went to work, billed hours, attended meetings, revision contracts, all while screaming inside. Acting normal was harder than I'd anticipated. Every time Rachel smiled at me, I wanted to ask, "Who are you really?" Every time Emma hugged me, I wanted to demand, "Who's your real father?" Every time I looked at Rachel's pregnant belly, I wanted to know, "Whose child are you carrying?" But I kept my mouth shut, smiled, pretended, just like Rachel had been pretending for 5 years. Carter called me every few days with updates. He was thorough, I'll give him that. He'd assigned 2 investigators to follow Rachel, one for general surveillance, another specifically for the Thursday meetings. Your wife keeps a very regular schedule, Carter told me in our first check-in. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, she takes the girls to school and daycare, goes grocery shopping, does errands. Pretty standard stay-at-home mom routine. But those Thursday meetings? That's where it gets interesting. How so? She takes great care with her appearance on Thursdays. Gets her hair done Wednesday afternoon. Thursday morning, she spends extra time on makeup. Wears nicer clothes. Dresses, instead of the yoga pants she wears other days. She's dressing up for someone. Looks that way. We've been following her the past 2 Thursdays. Same pattern each time. She takes a cab to a cafe in Midtown, place called the Blue Room on 52nd Street. She arrives at exactly 2 p.m. And at 2, a man shows up, my hands clenched into fists. Who is he? We're still identifying, but I can tell you this. He's in his mid-30s, well-dressed, professional type, lawyer or finance guy, if I had to guess. And Mr. Harrison? The way they interact? This isn't just a professional relationship. What do you mean? They're intimate. Not physically, they don't kiss or hold hands in public, but the body language, the eye contact, the way they lean in close when they talk. These are 2 people who know each other very well indeed. Carter sent me photos. I opened them on my phone during a meeting, pretending to check emails. Rachel, sitting in a corner booth at the Blue Room. Across from her, a man, dark hair, strong jaw, expensive suit. He was leaning forward, saying something that made Rachel laugh, a genuine, happy laugh I hadn't seen in months. In another photo, they were leaving the cafe together. He had his hand on the small of her back, guiding her through the door. In a third photo, they were standing by a car. He was opening the passenger door for her, and she was looking up at him with an expression I recognized, because she used to look at me that way before the Vise. I want to know who he is, I told Carter. Everything about him. Where he works, where he lives, His whole life story. Can you do that? Already on it. We got a clear shot of his license plate. Should have a name for you in 48 hours. Those 48 hours crawled by. I went through the motions at work, at home, everywhere. I played with Emma and Sophie. I asked Rachel about her day. I felt the baby kick against my hand when I put it on her belly. And the whole time, I was dying inside. Carter called me on a Friday afternoon. I'm sending you a file. You're going to want to be sitting down when you read it. I was in my office. I closed the door, locked it, and opened my email. The file was labeled, Subject Marcus Bennett. Marcus Bennett. Age 36. Born in Greenwich, Connecticut. Yale undergrad. Harvard Law. Currently a senior associate at Morrison & Associates. My firm. I kept reading, my horror growing with each line. Marcus had started at Morrison 7 years ago. The same year Rachel had been working there as a paralegal. According to the file, Carter had interviewed a former secretary named Jennifer Walsh, who'd worked in the same department. Her testimony was damning. Everyone knew Marcus and Rachel were involved, Jennifer had told Carter. They tried to be discreet, but you can't hide that kind of chemistry. The way they looked at each other. The way they'd find excuses to work late together. We all knew. But here was the kicker. Marcus had left Morrison 6 years ago, shortly after Rachel quit. He'd gone to work for a smaller firm in New Jersey. And then, 4.5 years ago, 3 months after Emma was born, Rachel had recommended him for a position at Morrison, my department. I'd interviewed him myself. I remembered that interview. Marcus Bennett had been impressive. Sharp, articulate, hungry for success. I'd hired him on the spot, proud of myself for spotting talent. Rachel had been so pleased. See, I told you he was good, she'd said. And for the past 4.5 years, Marcus Bennett had been working on the 23rd floor, 3 floors below me. We attended the same firm meetings. We'd even worked on a case together last year. The father of my children, if Emma and Sophie were indeed his, had been under the same roof as me for years. But Carter's investigation didn't stop there. He'd pulled Marcus's financial records, legally obtained through a skip tracer who specialized in asset searches. Every month for the past 5 years, Marcus had been making electronic transfers to Rachel's personal checking account. $2,000. Every single month. Like clockwork. The memo line said, loan repayment. It's not a loan, Carter told me when I called him. I checked. There's no loan documentation, no promissory note, nothing. This is child support. He's been paying your wife $2,000 a month in child support for 5 years. $24,000 a year, I calculated automatically. $120,000 total. While you've been paying for everything else. Housing, food, medical care, school tuition, clothes, toys, everything. You've been raising his children while he sends Rachel beer money on the side. What about the baby she's pregnant with now? Is it his? I don't think so. The timeline doesn't work. Your wife hasn't been meeting Marcus alone. They only meet at the Blue Room, in public, every Thursday. Our surveillance shows they don't go anywhere else together. They talk for 2 hours. Then he drives her around the block and drops her off 2 blocks from your apartment. So whose baby is it? Carter paused. There's someone else. A different man. We've only spotted him twice, but it's definitely a pattern. His name is David Sullivan. Lawyer at Whitman & Cross. Married. 2 kids. And Mr. Harrison? Your wife has been meeting him at hotels. I couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Rachel wasn't just having one affair. She was having 2. Marcus, the father of Emma and Sophie, according to the dates. And David Sullivan, likely the father of the baby she was carrying right now. Mr. Harrison, you still there? Yeah, I managed. I'm here. There's more. I pulled old security footage from your previous apartment building, the one on East 79th, where you lived when Emma was born. The management company keeps archives for 7 years. I found something you need to see. He sent me a video file. I clicked on it with shaking hands. Grainy security footage, dated 5 years and 2 months ago. The parking garage of my old building. A car pulled in Rachel's old Honda. The passenger door opened and Rachel stepped out, visibly pregnant. Very pregnant. Then the driver's side opened. Marcus Bennett. In the video, he walked around the car, put both hands on Rachel's pregnant belly, and kissed her. Not a friendly peck, a real kiss. Then they walked to the elevator together, his arm around her waist. This was 2 months after Emma was born. I'd been working insane hours at the firm, trying to make partner, working 18-hour days, sometimes sleeping at the office. And Rachel had been bringing Marcus to our home. I watched the video 3 more times, torturing myself. Then I closed my laptop and put my head in my hands. How could I have been so blind? That night, I sat at dinner with my family. Rachel had made pot roast my favorite. Emma was telling me about a book she'd read at school. Sophie was making a mess with her mashed potatoes, giggling. "Daddy, you're not eating," Emma said, concerned. I forced a smile. "Just not very hungry, sweetheart." Rachel reached over and put her hand on mine. "Are you feeling okay? You've seemed off lately." "Just work stress. Big merger case." She squeezed my hand. "You work too hard. You need to take care of yourself." The irony wasn't lost on me. Here was Rachel, pregnant with another man's child, telling me to take care of myself. After the girls were in bed, I made a decision. I needed to see Marcus, face to face. I needed to hear it from him. The next evening, Saturday, I told Rachel I had to go into the office. She didn't question it. I often worked weekends, but I didn't go to my office. I went to Marcus's apartment in Brooklyn. Carter had provided the address. I stood outside his building for 10 minutes, trying to decide if I was really going to do this. Then I pressed his buzzer. "Yeah?" His voice through the intercom. "Marcus, it's Michael Harrison. We need to talk." A long pause. "Michael, what are you doing here?" "Buzz me up, now." Another pause. Then the door clicked open. I took the elevator to the 4th floor. Marcus was waiting in his doorway, looking confused and worried. "Michael, what's going on? How did you get my address?" I pushed past him into his apartment. Small, neat, the kind of place a single guy lives in. Sports posters on the wall, laptop on a desk, and on the coffee table, a framed photo. Emma and Sophie. I picked up the photo. Nice picture. "When was this taken?" Marcus's face went white. "Michael, listen." "How long, Marcus? How long have you been sleeping with my wife?" "I haven't. We're not." "Don't lie to me!" I threw the photo frame against the wall. It shattered. Marcus held up his hand. Okay. Just calm down, and I'll tell you everything." "I'm listening." He sat down heavily on his couch, put his head in his hands, and then he told me the truth. Marcus Bennett looked up at me from his couch, and I could see he was crying. Actually crying. "I loved her," he said simply. 7 years ago, when we both worked at Morrison, I fell in love with Rachel. She was brilliant, funny, beautiful, and she loved me too. Or at least, I thought she did. I stood there, fists clenched, waiting. We were together for almost a year. Secretly, you know how firms are about fraternization between attorneys and support staff. But we were planning to go public. I was going to ask her to marry me. What happened? Marcus wiped his eyes. She got pregnant. With Emma. I was terrified. I was only 31. I hadn't made partner yet. I didn't know if I was ready to be a father, but I wanted to do the right thing. I went to my parents. My family, the Bennetts, were old money, Michael. Greenwich Estate, yacht club, the whole 9 yards. My father's a federal judge. My mother's on the board of the Met. They had very specific plans for my life. And none of those plans included marrying a paralegal. So they said no. They threatened to disown me, cut me off completely. My father said if I married Rachel, I'd never practice law again. He'd make sure of it. He has that kind of power. So you abandoned her. That's what I thought I was doing. I told Rachel I couldn't marry her, that we had to break up. I expected her to be devastated, maybe beg me to reconsider, but she didn't. Marcus shook his head. She barely reacted, just said, okay, and left. 2 days later, I heard she was dating someone, a senior associate, named Michael Harrison. I was heartbroken. I quit the firm, moved to New Jersey, tried to forget about her. Then 3 months later, I got a message from a picture of Emma in the hospital. Your daughter was born today. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I called her immediately, begged her to let me be part of Emma's life. But Rachel said no. She said she was married now to a good man who thought Emma was his. She said if I wanted to be part of Emma's life, I'd have to break up her marriage, destroy her new family. And you agreed to stay away for 2 months. Then I couldn't take it anymore. I told Rachel I needed to see Emma, just once. She finally agreed. She invited me over when you were working late. I held my daughter for the first time. She was 2 months old. That's when it happened. When Rachel and we couldn't help ourselves. All those feelings came back. We slept together. And then I left, hating myself. But you didn't stop there. No. Rachel kept calling me, sending me pictures of Emma, telling me how much Emma looked like me, how I was missing her first words, her first steps. It was torture. Then Rachel told me she was pregnant again, with Sophie. Said it happened that night I came to see Emma. She asked me what she should do, and you told her to keep it. Marcus nodded miserably. I did. God help me. I did. I told her I'd support her financially. I started sending money every month, $2,000. It was all I could afford, while I paid for everything else. I know how terrible it is. But Rachel said you were a good father, that Emma loved you, that it would destroy the children to know the truth. Then how did you end up working at my firm again? Rachel suggested it. She said if I worked at Morrison, I could see the girls sometimes, not as their father. Just be around them, see them growing up. It sounded crazy, but I was desperate. I took the job, and I hired you, welcomed you, mentored you. You worked 3 floors below me for 4.5 years. You saw me every day, in the elevator, at firm meetings, at the holiday party. You shook my hand. You smiled at me, all while knowing you were sleeping with my wife and fathering my children. It wasn't like that. Rachel and I haven't been together, not physically, in 3 years. The Thursday meetings, they're just talking about the girls, about how guilty we both feel. You feel guilty? That's rich. Marcus stood up. Michael, I know you hate me. You have every right to. But those girls, Emma and Sophie, they're innocent in all this. Whatever you do, please don't hurt them. What about the baby Rachel's pregnant with? Is that yours too? No. I swear to God. No, Rachel and I haven't been intimate in years. I don't know whose baby it is, but I knew. David Sullivan, the married lawyer from Whitman and Cross. Carter had the hotel receipts. You're fired, Marcus. I'm going to make sure you never practice law again. And those monthly payments you've been making? I'm going to expose every single one in court. Child support for children you're too cowardly to claim. Michael, please, get out of my way. I walked past him, out of his apartment, and didn't look back. That night, I couldn't go home. I couldn't face Rachel yet. Instead, I checked into the Plaza Hotel, the same place we'd gotten married 5 years ago. I sat in that room, drinking scotch from the minibar, staring at my phone. I had dozens of missed calls from Rachel, text messages asking where I was, if I was okay. I didn't respond. Instead, I called Carter. I need you to document everything. Marcus's confession. I recorded it on my phone. The financial transfers, the hotel visits with David Sullivan, everything. I want an airtight case. What are you planning to do? I'm going to divorce her, sue her for fraud, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows what she did. What about the children? I don't know yet. At 2 a.m., there was a knock on my hotel room door. I looked through the peephole. Rachel. She must have tracked my credit card. She was standing in the hallway, 8 months pregnant, tears streaming down her face. I opened the door. Michael, what's going on? Why are you here? Why won't you answer your phone? I let her in. She sat down on the bed, breathing heavily from the exertion of getting here. I know, Rachel. Know what? Everything. Marcus, David Sullivan, the affair, the lies, all of it. She didn't try to deny it, didn't try to lie her way out. She just started crying. How long have you known? A few weeks. I'm infertile, Rachel. Congenital azoospermia. I can't have children. I've never been able to. She looked at me with horror. Oh God. Oh God. Michael. I didn't know. Didn't you? You've been lying to me for 6 years. Did it ever occur to you to tell me the truth? Any of it? I was scared. Marcus wouldn't marry me. His family rejected me because I was just a paralegal. I was pregnant and alone. And then you. You were so kind to me, Michael. You loved me. You didn't care about my background or where I came from. You treated me like an equal. So you used me. No. I did love you. I do love you. You don't love me, Rachel. You love my salary. You love my apartment. You love being able to tell people you're married to a partner at Morrison & Associates. But you don't love me. She reached for my hand. That's not true. I pulled away. Is the baby you're carrying even Marcus's? Or is it David Sullivan's? Rachel's face went white. How do you know about David? I hired a private investigator. I know about the hotel visits, the affair, everything. It's David's, she whispered. The baby is David's. Does he know? No. He thinks we were just having fun. He doesn't know I got pregnant. You were going to pass it off as mine. Again. She didn't deny it. I'm filing for divorce, Rachel, and I'm suing you and Marcus for fraud. You deceived me into raising children that weren't mine. You took 5 years of my life based on lies. Please, Michael, think about the girls. Emma and Sophie, they love you. You're the only father they've ever known. That's not my fault. That's yours. You made this mess. What about them? What's going to happen to them? Marcus can support them. He's their biological father. He's been sending you money for years. Now he can pay full child support. Rachel grabbed my arm. Please don't do this. I'll do anything. I'll never see Marcus again. I'll cut off all contact with David. We can go to counseling. Please, it's too late. It's not. We have 5 years together. That has to mean something. It means nothing when it's built on lies. I stood up and walked to the door. I'm going to stay here tonight. Tomorrow, I'm calling my lawyer. I want you out of the apartment by the end of the week. Michael. We're done, Rachel. Goodbye. I closed the door in her face, stood there listening to her sob in the hallway. After a few minutes, I heard her footsteps walking away. I sat down on the bed and put my head in my hands. 5 years. 5 years of my life, based on a lie. But you know what the worst part was? Despite everything, despite the betrayal, the lies, the fraud, I still loved those little girls, Emma and Sophie. They were innocent in all this. They didn't ask to be born into this mess, and I was the only father they'd ever known. That night, I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, I called the best family law attorney in New York City. Her name was Sarah Morrison. No relation to my firm despite the name. She was a legend in divorce law, ruthless in court, brilliant in negotiations, and she took no prisoners. Her office was in a gleaming high-rise on Park Avenue, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, awards and diplomas covering one wall. This was a woman who won cases. Mr. Harrison, she said, shaking my hand with a firm grip. I've heard about you. Morrison and Associates. Corporate M&A. You're supposed to be one of the best. Thank you. I wish I was here under better circumstances. No one comes to a divorce lawyer under good circumstances. Sit down and tell me what happened. I told her everything. The infertility diagnosis, the discovery of Rachel's affairs, Marcus Bennett, David Sullivan, the children who weren't biologically mine, the years of deception. Sarah listened intently, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. Mr. Harrison, this is one of the most egregious cases of fraud I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot. What are my options? We file for divorce immediately, on grounds of adultery. Open and shut case. But here's where it gets interesting. We can also sue Rachel and Marcus Bennett for fraud and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Fraud based on what? Based on the fact that Rachel deliberately deceived you into believing you were the father of her children, knowing you were not. She induced you to marry her under false pretenses. She was already pregnant with another man's child. She then induced you to support these children financially and emotionally for 5 years, all while maintaining her deception. Can we win that? Sarah smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. With the evidence you have? Absolutely. The medical diagnosis of congenital azoospermia is ironclad. The private investigator's documentation is thorough. Marcus Bennett's own confession, which you recorded, is damning. And those monthly payments from Bennett? That's him essentially admitting paternity. What about child support? Will I have to pay? That's the complicated part. In New York, there's a presumption of legitimacy for children born during a marriage. However, you can contest paternity and request DNA testing. Given your medical condition, a court will almost certainly order the tests. And when they prove I'm not the biological father, your obligation to pay child support ends. The biological fathers, Marcus Bennett and David Sullivan, will be responsible. What about damages? Can I sue for the money I've already spent? We can certainly try. 5 years of supporting 2 children who weren't yours, plus all the pregnancy and birth expenses for the third child. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages, plus emotional distress, which in a case this egregious could be substantial. File everything. I want the divorce, the paternity contest, and the fraud lawsuit. All of it. Sarah nodded. I'll need you to sign some documents. And Mr. Harrison, this is going to get ugly. Rachel's attorney will try to paint you as a deadbeat father who's abandoning his children. The media might pick it up. Lawyer discovers wife's infidelity, abandons family. Are you prepared for that? I'm prepared for the truth to come out, whatever it takes. Sarah's firm moved fast. Within 3 days, Rachel was served with divorce papers at our apartment. Marcus Bennett was served at his office. David Sullivan was served at his home in Scarsdale. His wife answered the door and learned about his affair with my wife in the same moment. The lawsuits listed every detail. The affair, the deception, the fraudulent paternity, everything. Rachel called me immediately, hysterical. Michael, what have you done? You're suing me for $3 million? $3 million? That's what you cost me, Rachel. 5 years of my life. Hundreds of thousands in child support for kids who aren't mine. Emotional distress. It's all documented. I don't have $3 million. Then you'll have to sell the apartment. Or Marcus can help you. Or David. They're both named in the lawsuit, too. David's wife is divorcing him. His whole life is falling apart. Good. He should have thought about that before sleeping with my wife. Rachel's next move was predictable. She hired a shark of her own, a lawyer named Robert Kaplan, who specialized in defending women in ugly divorces. The tabloids got hold of the story. Manhattan lawyer sues wife for $3 million over paternity fraud. Love triangle turns into legal nightmare. My phone rang constantly. Reporters wanting comments. Colleagues expressing shock and sympathy. Even my own mother called, horrified. Michael, is it true? Rachel cheated on you? With multiple men? It's all true, Mom. And the girls, Emma and Sophie, they're not yours? No, Mom, they're not. I heard her crying on the other end of the line. The first court date arrived. New York County Supreme Court, Family Division. Rachel and I sat on opposite sides of the courtroom with our attorneys. Rachel looked terrible 9 months pregnant now. Pale, dark circles under her eyes. Her lawyer, Kaplan, was a small man with slicked back hair and an expensive suit. The judge was a woman in her 60s, Judge Patricia Hendricks, known for being fair but no nonsense. This is a preliminary hearing regarding Harrison versus Harrison, she said. Divorce petition with ancillary claims for fraud and paternity contest. I've reviewed the filings. This is quite a case. Kaplan stood up. Your Honor, this is a travesty. Mr. Harrison is attempting to abandon his wife of 5 years and 2 innocent children, all because he's decided, after 5 years, that he doesn't want to be a father anymore. That's a lie! I started to stand, but Sarah put a hand on my arm. Sarah stood smoothly. Your Honor, if I may, Mr. Harrison is not abandoning anyone. He discovered 3 months ago that he has congenital azoospermia, a medical condition that makes it physically impossible for him to father children. We have multiple medical evaluations confirming this diagnosis. She handed a stack of documents to the clerk. Mr. Harrison was deceived by his wife for 5 years. She knew when she married him that she was pregnant with another man's child. She then continued an affair with that man and became pregnant again. She is currently pregnant with a third child from yet another affair with a different man. This is not a case of a man abandoning his family. This is a case of fraud. Judge Hendricks reviewed the medical documents. These appear legitimate. Congenital azoospermia, diagnosed by Dr. Richardson at Manhattan Medical Center. Multiple confirming tests. Kaplan jumped back in. Your Honor, even if these medical claims are true, which we dispute, Mr. Harrison has acted as the father to these children for 5 years. He cannot simply walk away now. There is a doctrine of equitable estoppel. I am aware of the doctrine, Mr. Kaplan, but it typically applies in cases where the husband knew, or should have known, about the non-paternity and continued to act as the father regardless. Here, Mr. Harrison had no reason to suspect anything until his medical diagnosis. I'm ordering paternity tests for both Emma and Sophie Harrison to be conducted within 30 days. I'm also ordering a preliminary injunction preventing Mr. Harrison from having to pay child support until paternity is established. Rachel gasped. Kaplan looked furious. Your Honor, that leaves my client destitute. She has no income, no resources. Then perhaps Mr. Bennett, who has been paying her $2,000 monthly for 5 years, can increase his support. Or Mr. Sullivan, who may be the father of her third child, can contribute. This court will not force a man to support children who are not biologically his when he was deceived into believing they were. We walked out of that courtroom, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. The paternity tests were conducted the following week. A simple cheek swab from Emma and Sophie, from me, and from Marcus Bennett. 2 weeks later, the results came back. Marcus Bennett. 99.99% probability of paternity for both Emma and Sophie. Michael Harrison, 0% probability. When those results were entered into court, everything changed. Judge Hendricks ruled that Marcus Bennett was the legal father of both children and was responsible for child support. She set the amount at $4,000 per month, double what he'd been secretly paying Rachel. My obligation to pay zero. Marcus also lost his job at Morrison & Associates. The firm couldn't keep a lawyer who'd been carrying on an affair with a colleague's wife and hiding his own children. David Sullivan's story was even worse. His wife divorced him and got everything, their house in Scarsdale, custody of their 2 kids, massive alimony. When David's firm found out about the affair and the lawsuit, they fired him too. Ethics violations. Rachel was forced to sell our apartment. With 2 young children and a newborn, she moved into a small 2-bedroom in Queens, living off child support from Marcus and David when they bothered to pay. The fraud lawsuit went to trial 6 months later. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They awarded me $1.2 million in damages. Rachel's lawyer immediately appealed, but we all knew she'd never pay it. She had nothing. Marcus had nothing. David had nothing, but I'd won. The court had validated my truth. You might think that would be the end of the story. It wasn't. It's been 18 months since the divorce was finalized. 18 months since my world fell apart and rebuilt itself into something I never expected. I wake up every morning at 6:50 a.m. in my apartment in Brooklyn, not the Upper West Side anymore. Not a doorman building with marble lobbies and a view of Central Park. Just a modest 1-bedroom in Park Slope, above a bakery that fills my apartment with the smell of fresh bread every morning. I'm 41 now. I don't work at Morrison & Associates anymore. I left 6 months after the divorce was finalized. Too many memories. Too many people who knew the story. Too much pity in their eyes. Instead, I work at a small firm in Brooklyn that specializes in civil rights law. The pay is about a third of what I used to make. But I go home at 6 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. I sleep through the night. I don't wake up wondering if my life is a lie. People ask me if I'm bitter, if I hate Rachel, Marcus, David, if I lie awake at night, plotting revenge. The truth? I don't think about them much anymore. Rachel made her choices. She's living with them. Last I heard, she was working as a secretary again, raising 3 young children in a cramped apartment in Queens. Marcus pays child support when he can. He's working as a contract attorney now. No permanent position. David Sullivan, I know nothing about. And I don't want to. But Emma and Sophie, that's different. For the first 6 months after the divorce, I didn't see them. Couldn't see them. It hurt too much. They represented the biggest lie of my life. But then, one Saturday afternoon in spring, I was walking through Prospect Park, and I saw them. Rachel was sitting on a bench, looking exhausted, holding her baby, a boy named Christopher I'd heard. Emma and Sophie were playing on the playground, taking turns on the swings. Emma saw me first. Michael! She started running toward me. Sophie followed, shouting my name. They crashed into me, wrapping their arms around my waist, talking over each other about school and friends and a bird's nest they'd found, and all the things 6-year-olds talk about. And I realized something in that moment. Biology doesn't make you a father. Love does. These girls didn't choose to be born into this mess. They didn't ask for a mother who lied, or a biological father who was a coward. They didn't create this situation. And for 5 years, I'd been their father. I'd taught Emma to tie her shoes. I'd been there when Sophie learned to swim. I'd read them bedtime stories and kissed their scraped knees and told them they could be anything they wanted when they grew up. That was real. The love was real. Rachel walked over slowly, pushing the stroller with baby Christopher. "Michael," she said quietly, "I didn't know you lived nearby. Just moved to the neighborhood a few months ago." We stood there awkwardly, two people who used to share everything. Now strangers. "They miss you," Rachel said softly. "They ask about you every day." I looked down at Emma and Sophie, holding my hands, looking up at me with absolute trust and joy. Can I see them? Regularly?" Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "Really? Not for you. For them. They didn't do anything wrong. They shouldn't have to lose me because of decisions you made." She nodded quickly. Yes, of course. Whenever you want." So now, every other Saturday, I pick up Emma and Sophie. We go to the park. We get ice cream at a place on 7th Avenue. We go to the Natural History Museum. We do homework together. I'm not their legal father anymore. Marcus has that distinction, though he rarely exercises his visitation rights. But I'm the father they chose. The father they remember. The father who shows up. I don't pay child support. I'm not legally required to. But I buy them school clothes. I pay for Emma's art classes and Sophie's soccer league. I'm putting money aside for their college funds. Marcus knows. He's never said anything to me, and I've never spoken to him since that night in his apartment. But he knows. And Rachel? We're cordial now. Not friends. We'll never be friends. But we can be in the same room without wanting to scream at each other, for the girl's sake. As for baby Christopher, I've met him a few times when picking up the girls. Cute kid. Looks just like David Sullivan, apparently. I feel nothing toward him. And that's okay. He has a father. Let David figure out what kind of father he wants to be. I'm in therapy every Tuesday afternoon. Dr. Walsh, a psychologist in my neighborhood, who specializes in trauma and betrayal. At first, I thought therapy was for weak people who couldn't handle their own problems. I was wrong. Dr. Walsh has helped me understand that what happened wasn't my fault. That I couldn't have known. That being deceived doesn't make me stupid or weak. It makes me human. She's helping me learn to trust again, to open myself up to the possibility of future relationships. I went on a date last month. First one since the divorce. Her name is Jennifer. She's a legal aid attorney I met at a continuing education seminar. Smart, funny, straightforward. No games, no lies. We had coffee, talked for 2 hours. She knows about my past. I was honest about everything. She didn't run away screaming. We're taking it slow, very slow. But there's potential there. Last week, Emma asked me a question. "Michael, are you going to get married again someday?" We were having pizza in my apartment. I have them over every Sunday afternoon now. I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe. Would that be okay with you? Emma thought about it seriously. Only if she's nice. Nicer than Mommy. 6-year-olds. They see everything. Sophie chimed in through a mouthful of pizza. Does she like Disney movies? Because if she doesn't like Disney movies, you can't marry her. I laughed, the first real laugh I'd had in months. I'll make sure to ask her. That's a very important question. My apartment isn't fancy anymore. No doorman. No marble lobby, no river view, but it's mine, truly mine. Everything in it was bought with honesty, not lies. I have Emma's drawings on my refrigerator, Sophie's school photo on my desk at work. I keep a box of toys here for when they visit. My salary is smaller, but I don't work 70-hour weeks anymore. I have time for the things that matter. I've learned something through all of this. Something I wish I could go back and tell my 40-year-old self. Sitting in that doctor's office, hearing for the first time that he couldn't have children. Family isn't just about biology. It's about who shows up, who stays, who chooses to love, even when it's hard. Marcus Bennett is Emma and Sophie's biological father, but he's not their dad. He's not the one who teaches them to ride bikes, or helps with homework, or shows up to school plays. I am. Not because I have to, not because a court ordered it, not because of some legal obligation, but because I choose to. Every single day, I choose them, and they choose me. My name is Michael Harrison. I'm 41 years old. I was married to a woman who lied to me for 5 years. I raised children who weren't biologically mine. I was betrayed by people I trusted, and I survived it. More than survived. I found a way to turn something horrible into something meaningful. I found a way to keep loving those little girls even after learning the truth about their conception. If you're listening to this and you're going through something similar, if you've been lied to, betrayed, deceived, I want you to know something important. You will survive this. It won't be easy. It won't be quick. There will be days when you want to give up, when the pain seems unbearable, when you wonder if you'll ever feel normal again. But you will. And on the other side of this pain, you'll find something precious, the truth. And with truth comes freedom. Freedom to rebuild your life on a foundation of honesty. Freedom to choose who you want to be, rather than living in someone else's lies. Freedom to define family on your own terms. I chose not to let Rachel's betrayal destroy my capacity to love. I chose not to abandon Emma and Sophie just because they weren't biologically mine. I chose to forgive not for Rachel or Marcus or David, but for myself, because carrying hatred is exhausting. And I was tired of being exhausted. Last Saturday, Emma made me a card at school. It was for Father's Day, still months away, but she was practicing. Inside, in her careful 6-year-old handwriting, it said, "To Michael, you're the best dad ever. Love, Emma." Not Daddy, not Father, just Michael, because she's smart enough to know the complicated truth of our relationship. But she still chose to call me her dad. And that card is hanging on my refrigerator right now, next to Sophie's drawing of the 3 of us at the park. That's my family. Not the family I thought I had. Not the family I planned for. But the family I chose. And the family that chose me back. And you know what? That's enough. More than enough. Thank you for listening to my story. If it meant something to you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you're going through something similar, know that you're not alone. Remember, family is who you choose. Love is what you build. And truth, however painful, will always set you free. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Choose honesty, choose love, and choose to show up, even when it's hard.